So, it's Valentine's Day, and for the 16th year in a row, although you have to disqualify like at least 12 of those years, probably. Yeah, honestly, probably disqualify all of them except for the last 2, if you really, want to be realistic. But anyway, for the 16th or 2nd or whatever time in a row, I am alone. And so, what I ended up doing is just spending a day alone. Or at least an afternoon alone, because they didn't give us the day off, which I don't necessarily disagree with, but, And so I drove to a bunch of different scenic places and looked at shit. And what I ended up doing after that is I wanted to go up to Airport Hill to look at the sunset. And I decided I was going to run there. So I parked at the bottom, and I got out my headphones, and I jogged up. And it was awful. It was so awful. Yesterday was leg day, and I already pushed myself pretty damn hard on leg day, like about as hard as I've ever pushed myself on leg day. And it was hurting just to walk. And it was excruciating to run. And I got a wicked cough halfway up that's still with me for some reason. I don't know what the hell that is. I hope I'm not dying. But I think there's a value to all this, and there's an understated value to being alone on Valentine's Day and being alone in general. Because when you're alone, that is your opportunity to develop yourself. That is your opportunity to, away from the influence of anyone else, discover who you are and develop your own traits. If you spend all your time with people and all your time concerned with people, you're inevitably going to end up being a mishmash of other people. You're not going to be able to stand as an individual yourself. And that's not to say that spending time with people is a bad thing. I love spending time with people. It's amazing. We're social creatures. But if you never spend time alone, or you're afraid to spend time alone, if being alone on Valentine's Day is a bad thing to you, you need to reevaluate. Because if you can't spend a day alone with yourself, how do you expect to ever get to the point where someone's going to want to spend an entire day with you? If you can't entertain the person you know better than any other person, you're not going to be able there's that cough. You're not going to be able to entertain another person. So when you're alone, instead of, in a relationship or with friends or whatever, don't feel bad for yourself. Improve yourself. Take the opportunity. Build your character. Become someone interesting enough that you enjoy spending time with yourself. And that's going to be a different thing for every person, but it's not developed unless you take the time to be by yourself and to develop whatever skills are yours to develop. Another thing is, I don't know how to put it. Don't do or be in a relationship unless you have to. Or, yeah, I'm going to put it that way. If you have such a strong connection with someone that you feel like you have to be in a relationship with them, like you have no other choice, it's obvious this is a person you care about so deeply that you have to be with them, that is the time to be in a relationship. Don't enter a relationship because everyone else is in a relationship, and don't just pick someone to be in a relationship with just to be in a relationship with, especially while we're all still in high school. You know what I mean? This is your time to develop who you are. If you have an amazing, perfect connection, then by all means, start dating. That's great and that's amazing. But don't just date for the sake of dating. That's not the point. You know, we're all at the cusp of our lives right now. This is our time to become who we are going to be for the rest of our lives. Don't half-ass that shit. Don't be in a rush to get past it. Take it slow and give it the time and effort it deserves. You know, develop who you are. Become someone that people will want to spend time with because you're genuinely an interesting person to be around. And do what makes, above all else, do what makes you happy, and don't give a shit what people think of that. You know, I have countless people who despise everything about me and about who I am. But the bottom line is I'm happy. I'm happy doing what I'm doing. So what do I care? It's the exact same way, no matter what it is exactly that makes you happy, unless it's something unhealthy. Like, if drugs make you happy, you're not actually happy, you're on drugs. And that goes for all things that release a lot of dopamine into your head, like food and, yeah, to a lesser extent, exercise, because you can't really get addicted to exercise, at least in my experience, but anyway. Find what makes you happy. Find what gives your life purpose, and go all out for it. Because what else is there to do in this life? You know, I'm happy when I'm in the gym. And I'm happy when I look in the mirror and I see myself growing. And I know what I want to do with my life is take that as far as I can. So I'm going for it, and I'm going pretty much all out for it. I'm putting more effort into bodybuilding than I am into school, because I know what my priority is. You know, every day, just pick one thing that in your skill set that you are, once you know what makes you happy, once you know what skill set it is you need to develop to do with your life what you need to do with your life, and only you can figure that out for yourself, then every single day you need to pick one thing within that skill set that is attainable that day, but you're going to have to struggle for. And here's why. It's not just because the act of struggling is going to improve you. That's only part of it. Yes, when I'm in the gym and I say, okay, I'm going to do, 10 pounds heavier than I ever have for like 12 reps, I'm going to struggle there. That's the exact kind of goal I'm talking about, where it's going to take a ton of effort to make happen in that moment, but it's obtainable right then and there if you put forth the effort. That makes me more muscular. It makes me more developed than something easier. And that goes for lots of things. If you're like a computer, if you like to code, if you like to play music, and you try to do something challenging, then you're going to come out better at music or at coding on the other side. But what it really and there's a cough again, what it really is about is it's developing mental toughness. It's about creating a habit of It's about creating a habit of satisfying your expectations. It's about developing the ability to stop going 10 reps when you meant to do 12. Stop doing 80% because it's too hard. It's about developing the ability to hang on and fight through the pain and stay with it. Whether that's mental pain or physical pain or frustration or whatever, you got to be able to stick with it. And you got to develop that mental toughness, because life will kick your ass. It's kicked my ass time after time after time. Sometimes I screw up and things go bad. Sometimes just random chance just fucks you over, like with my fucking intestine. I'm very sick, and basically just because I'm unlucky. But because I've developed this sense of mental toughness day after day after day after day, I have this ability now to hang on when it gets tough and stick with it and keep reaching. I was rambling so long, I ran out of space on my phone and had to delete some old videos. But my point is, life doesn't owe you anything. From, an evolutionary standpoint, we were surviving for so many years of our life, and there's so many people I know who would be dead if we were still there. And we've been there for like 90% of our history, you know what I mean? So, life is unforgiving, and it'll kick your ass. It'll knock you down. And no matter how hard you try to avoid that, it'll come sooner or later. There will come a day when you really genuinely want to give up. There will probably be some point in your life where you will contemplate suicide, because life is just that hard. And so the key to succeeding in life is to preemptively, before anything else, learn how to deal with it. Learn how to deal with the hard parts of life. Learn how to coexist with all the shit you're going to have to put up with. You have to learn how even when you're in pain, you have to keep stumbling forward. You're going to have to learn that sometimes the only way to solve a problem is just to bash your head against the brick wall until the brick wall falls down. And that's going to suck. But it's just how you got to deal with it. Sometimes it takes repetition upon repetition upon repetition upon repetition to get somewhere. Sometimes it'll take excruciating pain to get somewhere. You know what I mean? Like when I had appendicitis. It's hard. It's when you're in that much pain just to think that there's ever going to be a place where you're not in that much pain. And you got to take it. It's the same way really with lifting in general. When I'm at the end of a workout and I'm already, the muscle's already so destroyed and I'm in so much pain, but I have to put in the extra mile to get where I want to get. So then there's those sets at the end where you push it really hard, even though it's painful. It's really painful. But that's the whole point. That's where the growth occurs. That's what separates the person who's serious about it from the person who isn't serious about it. So the person who's serious about it keeps going when it sucks. And he does it when it's going well. He does it when it sucks. Because regardless of how he's feeling in the moment, you gotta know that it's all worth it in the grander scheme of your life. You know what I mean? You can wait and you can waste your life. You can say, I feel too sick to go to the gym today. I'm too lazy. Not too lazy. I don't feel like studying for this test. I'd rather just play video games. I'd rather just watch TV. I'd rather just sit here and eat. But that's gonna be a pretty shitty life. You're not gonna do anything interesting. You're not going to be the best person you can be if you do that. You have to just develop an attitude, above all else, of constantly holding on and constantly working hard, no matter how hard life hits you, and constantly doing everything you can to grow. I'm telling you, read books. And I'm not saying sit down and read a book. I'm telling you, find a way to read a book. Get a nonfiction book that is actually going to stimulate your mind. Get that shit on an audiobook. Listen to it everywhere you drive. Okay? No excuses. I get it. Sitting down for an hour and a half to read a book sucks. No one has time for that. I don't have time for that. But you gotta find a way to grow yourself. You have to find a way to make it happen. If you suck at math, you gotta find a way to get better at it. If you're sick, you gotta find a way to overcome it. Kai Lucchini, you know what I'm talking about. This is exactly what I went through, and I'm sure it's exactly what you went through. When you're sick, You can stop and you can give up and you can die, or you can find a way to keep on living even though you're sick. And that's just the reality of it. That's just what you got to do. And it's the same no matter what. You just got to find a way to make it happen. You got to keep growing. You got to keep developing yourself. You got to keep becoming better no matter what happens. No matter what happens. You got to get to the point where you can imagine the worst possible scenario, and you know deep down that you would keep working anyway. You got to get to the point where you can say, I could lose all my limbs. I could get my eyes gouged out. I could lose my hearing and my sense of taste, and I would find a fucking way to get there. Because if you don't, at least from my perspective, what even is the point of all this? If I don't accomplish my goals, why am I here? If I do not become satisfied with who I am as a human being, what right do I have to be on this earth? You gotta know why you're here. You have to be able to say, this is why I exist. Period.